Welcome everyone to Comic Talk Tuesday. Today I have Matt from Udon Entertainment. I'm
How's it
sorry,
going?
I was considering should I try to pronounce the last name? I always mispronounce everyone's names.
It's Moylan. It's
Okay.
Irish.
Oh, perfect. First question is usually how did you get your start with when it comes to starting up Udon Entertainment?
Like, how did I get? Well, right out of college, I got a job at Dreamwave Productions. They did so about 21 years ago. They did the Transformers comics, and they had a run on Ninja Turtles and some of their own comics. And I got a co-op placement there, being like their website design guy, one of two website design guys. And after that, I just slowly, anytime anybody asked me to do something, can you do lettering? Like, okay, sure. Can you do graphic design? Can you lay out a book? Like, okay, sure. And so that lasted a couple years. Dreamwave didn't have a great ending because the people that ran it didn't run it very well. So after about 3 years, they went bankrupt, and then I found myself at Udon. And again, I kind of started slow there. Like, I started at Udon writing press releases, and it kind of slowly became the same thing, managing projects and doing graphic design and book layout and all kinds of things. And so eventually I became director of publishing, which for many years I've run basically the publishing side of Udon mostly on my own in terms of production. The Udon founder, Eric Ko, he handles like the business deals and stuff like that, like dealing with Japan and dealing with licensors. Occasionally he'll run a project on his own. And we now have a third person kind of taking some of each of our jobs just because we're doing so much, Marshall Dillon. And so, yeah, he's running some project and he's running some business stuff. So there's really three of us at the top of Udon, and lots of freelancers.
I can imagine. It is kind of like an odd place to start, where it started as website design, and
Yeah.
now it's all about
Well,
publishing comics.
yeah, I went to school for, we called it multimedia production was my program, but some people call it new media, or now it's interactive media. But I thought my goal was I'm going to become like an interactive business card designer. Because at the time it was like a fad to give people a little CD for a business card. And there'd be like a little animation on it if you put it in your computer. And like that, I thought like that was the height of what I could do. But they kind of trained us to be, project managers or department managers, because they taught us a little bit of everything. Here's Photoshop, here's 3D modeling, programming, website design, interactive stuff, like all kinds of things. So I guess that's kind of what I do. I deal with a lot of different people with different skills, but if I ever had to step in, I could step into most of the roles to, edit a piece of art or fix the lettering or whatever.
Yeah, you're like a everything kind of guy.
Yeah.
You fix the problems that get brought to you.
Yeah, mostly. And a lot of asking the artist to please draw faster. Could you please draw a little faster?
You have any issues like hitting deadlines?
Oh, sometimes. I mean, sometimes too. It's just like, we understand this is gonna be slow. We know that you're not the fastest artist. We just want to work with you. So, just let us know how it's going as you're going, and we'll publish this when you're done, kind of a thing.
Right. I think so long as you can have like a general idea of when everything will be done, even if it takes a while, it's just so long as there's a date.
Yeah, some projects are different. Like if it's a creative services project, which is when another company hires us to do a comic, and we have to hit those deadlines. So those are the projects we'll be super strict on. Or if we've already solicited it in like the Diamond catalog or something, then like we have a set schedule to do that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's also funny talking about graphic design. I know like some people in graphic design, they always say like it's not the same as being an artist per se, because they always talk about how like it sucks the creativity out of them just to like make something graphically look.
I mean,
good
it depends what
business.
what you're working on. I mean, if you were like a graphic designer working at Microsoft, it might not be that interesting doing
Yeah, I think
simple
that is
stuff.
the type of graphic design that they're referring to.
Yeah, yeah. But if you're working at a comic company or a video game company, or you can do all kinds of cool stuff. Before we started talking, I was working on. We haven't announced this art book yet, but I was working on a new art book that's involves a lot of like mech and stuff. So, kind of organizing like little like tech spec profiles and stuff. And every robot in this property is kind of a very different shape. So it's trying to figure out because all the layouts are going to have to be different to fit around the different pieces of art. Trying to figure out like a hierarchy of like, this is obviously the main text when you see it. This is the technical specifications part. This is like a little quote about that one from like a famous character in the series or something. So that's the kind of stuff I do a lot of figuring out. Sometimes it's straightforward stuff too, like when we translate an art book from Japan, it'll be trying to, how do we match that flavor of the Japanese text, like the Japanese font with an English font, that kind of stuff.
Right, that can be pretty tricky sometimes. Because they are like extremely different shapes that you're working with.
Like you're going from box characters to like mixed case, different size characters. So it could be fun to figure that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently got our own sketchnote font designed for us, so it's meant to kind of be a little boxy, but for translating all the rough sketch notes on Japanese character designs. So we had someone design up our own Udon sketchnote font for that, because we'd have to do that a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's good use for graphic designing fonts.
Yeah, the guy I mentioned, Marshall Dillon, he actually started at Udon. He's only been working in the management capacity for about a year, but he started as a letterer for us years ago. So he's really into fonts too. He spearheaded that. Like, we should have our own sketchnote font. Like, oh, it's a good idea.
It is a good idea. Out of everything published in Udon, do you have a personal favorite?
Well, I mean, things that I worked on, that I really like, I worked creatively on. Like, we did a series called Bravo Man so initially we were hired by Bandai Namco to they just asked Udon. So we have all these like dead video game properties. They might have only had one video game in the 80s or the 90s or something, and you want to just take them and just sort of play with them and try recreating them as webcomics. So we took a whole bunch of them, and Bravo Man is one of them. It's kind of a side-scrolling, a little Mega Man-y, but it's about a character who his superpowers are he can stretch his arms and legs, and he can turn into a submarine for some reason.
Just those two specific things.
Yeah, those are his abilities in the game. And so it's just like a side-scrolling weird adventure, and so we took that, and I became the writer for that one, and Dax Gordine was the artist, and we turned it into kind of a very wacky meta jokes comic strip where he's aware that he's in a comic strip and he can, sneak over the panel borders or something if he needs to get behind a bad guy or things like that.
Right.
So that was fun. So we did 300 strips of that, and we've collected half of them in a book, and a print book. Shifty Look, the company, and like the division of Namco that hired us, only lasted a couple years, but we still have the book, and that's cool. But I'm really proud of that. We did we got to do a little animated series of it too, 12 like web episodes. Rob Paulson became the voice of Bravo Man, so that was another fun thing to write.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, stuff like that are the things I'm really proud of. Or like major from scratch design projects. Like I've gotten to do 4 volumes of The Art of Darksiders, or 3 volumes of Robotech visual guide of all the original Robotech shows, Macross and Southern Cross and Mospeada, the 3 original Robotech parts. So that was super fun. But yeah, and like big graphic design projects or stuff that I wrote myself is usually the stuff I'm most proud of.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Also, doing the Marvel vs. Capcom Official Complete Works art book was really cool to work on a Marvel project. So because we work so much with Capcom, that was something that was not too hard to get going at that time. But just to be able to like collect all this art from all these games, we even included like the pre crossover games like that Capcom did, like they did a Punisher game or they did just a Street Fighter game, and getting all that like the Marvel characters drawn by Japanese artists, getting all that art in there, and some of my favorite artists are in the book. Like there's a Joe Madureira piece in there because he did the cover for one of the games. So that was also very cool to work on.
I remember you posting like the Udon booths at multiple cons. You were going to them yourself? I mean,
Yeah.
I would just assume, just seeing the.
Yeah, I haven't. I mostly just did San Diego Comic-Con this year, but Udon's done a few shows. But we totally redesigned our booth this year. Like we've always been.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Yeah, before this year, it was like use the tables provided and just print out some roll-up vinyl banners and just hang them behind the booth and hang them on the tables. But yeah, now we work with a company called Crown Studios. They handle our web store, so they're the guys who mostly deal with like our merchandise and stuff. So they came up with the booth design and got it all sourced out for us. So it's very cool. It's very modular. Like all the I don't know what you call them. They're like socks kind of. It's like this metal frame, then you wrap these stretchy printed things like fabric around it. Like so it's like a
I
sock
think I have
around
seen
it.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can year to year we can replace parts of it, parts of the printed stuff every year. So if we're not like we have a Street Fighter big image, but if maybe next year we want to promote Mega Man because we have a Mega Man project, we can just replace that little section with some different art. But yeah,
Right.
cons, San Diego, we had our best San Diego ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in how long has Udon been going? I guess Udon's been going about 20 years. I've been going with Udon about 15 years. But yeah, in terms of sales, we had the fire marshal tell us to get our line under control, which has never happened before. So that's a good thing because everybody
I
wants
would
to
say
buy
so.
stuff.
Yeah.
We sold out of our big exclusive was a Kami shirt that was done for the show, designed by Chisato Mita. She's a Capcom artist. She also works on the Macross anime right now. So that sold out. The show goes from Wednesday to Sunday, and we sold out on Thursday. So of that shirt. So, and we did twice as many as we did of the shirt last year, the year before. So I guess we should do another twice as many next year. We'll see how it goes.
I guess so. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, even though we're a publisher at conventions, we find people don't want to get a ton of books from us these days. We do bring like some exclusive comic covers, but we really don't have many books. We had one book premiering at the show, which was Artistry of Macross, the second volume, because Hidetaka Tenjin, who is the artist of the book, was at the show. So we premiered the book at the show with him and did some signings. But otherwise, we just sell like merch, like pins and shirts, and sometimes some related things like metal cards, things like that.
Right. That's pretty normal for like
Yeah.
the cons, though, that they're more so after the merch, especially of things that they recognize, than they are after like reading some new comics or new books.
We used to do a lot, like all books, and we'd have our annual thing was like have a 300-page art book to sell at the show. So we'd have several hundred copies of a 300-page hardcover art book, and we'd like basically you've seen con booths, so like with a table at the front. So we'd have a table at the front and a table at the back with those little curtains on them, but under there was like solid packed boxes of books, just like hundreds of books under there. Like three types of books we publish. We do art books, we do manga, and we do comic books. And those things like fluctuate in different amounts over the years. Originally we were just a comic book publisher, and then started picking up a couple art books and a couple manga, and slowly the art books and manga took over. Manga's gone up and down. We're nice and up right now. But yeah, comics has also gone very far down at some points where we only did like 1 or 2 comics a year, but we're back up to doing about a dozen a year. And that's good for us because we make a lot of the money on like exclusive rare covers sold on our website rather than individual sales. So, and it works for us because we only do like a comic a month on average, but it's not really super scalable. If we were doing Street Fighter like 4 issues a month of different series, like, you know, say like a Batman or something, like they do several comics a month. And we couldn't scale up this collectible market that much, but our fans seem to be happy with it at the level that it's at right now.
That's good. What's your bestseller as far as comics go? Comics or manga, I guess.
Oh, that's the manga destroys the comics in terms of dollars. But
I can imagine.
but so for comics, it's always been Street Fighter. We've done a few other things like Darkstalkers and some Mega Man stuff in comic form that's actually manga, things like that. Or we've done a few other properties as graphic novels and stuff. But definitely Street Fighter is what we're known for. In terms of manga, I think our best-selling manga ever is Kill la Kill. And probably very close to that is Persona 5 Mementos Mission. It was like an original side stories to the game. So not most of our Persona mangas are game adaptations, but the Persona 5 stuff that we do is all original stories. So it's kind of something different. We also did recently we did a Persona 5 like anthology manga, Persona 5 comic a la carte. So not a lot of people know about anthology mangas in North America because they don't make it over here very much. And the reason is that you have to get these, you know, 15 people who drew the various short stories in it to all like agree, and the Japanese licensors don't always want to deal with that. They're like, no, for this one book, we don't want to bother talking to all these mangaka just to license you this one book. But the for Persona 5 comic a la carte, it seems they already arranged all that in advance, so it worked out fine.
Yeah, not printed, but I do often see like on certain manga apps, they'll have like the super short manga stories that you can't find like anywhere else, just like random one shots.
I have it here. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. This one.
Nice.
Ooh. So yeah, how many guys are in here? I think it's about that, like fit. Yeah, it's like a dozen, 15. Yeah, so the Persona stuff does great for us, and it's done great for us. The old Persona stuff is doing great for us lately, even. So we've been doing Persona manga about since 2016, maybe 2015, 2016. We've done the adaptations, like 10, 12 volume adaptations of Persona 3 and then Persona 4. And those Persona 5 mangas I just mentioned, and now we're doing the Persona 4 Arena mangas. And they're like, we finished them off, maybe 5 years ago, the Persona 3 and 4 mangas. And just after the pandemic, they just started climbing again. So it's just kind of an example of the whole manga North American market, rising with everybody else that's getting hot again.
It's totally taken over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been cool. Probably half of our sales for the Persona manga have been in the last just couple of years, even though it's getting to be close to a 10-year license for us.
Any new properties that you're excited for coming to Udon?
Yeah, we're doing... I'm really excited about Team Phoenix, which is all the properties of Osamu Tezuka reimagined in one property as like a space adventure manga. So you've got like a team, like a team of kind of renegades in a starship crew. So there's Leo from Jungle Emperor Leo, and but instead of like just a lion, he's like a humanoid lion now.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, from like a race of lion people. And there's Sapphire Knight, and I always forget the guy. He's like a ninja, like a rogue ninja with like a mohawk. I always forget his name. Blackjack's in it. Astro Boy and Atlas and Uran are all in it, and the teacher with the mustache, the character design who's always in every Tezuka thing, he's in it as like a detective, so like a space detective. but it's really cool, and they kind of invert the main themes of Astro Boy in it. For the overall theme, and that it's a universe that's mostly controlled by robots, and they're trying to wipe out the last few humans. So it's kind of about last few biological, intelligent life. So So it's like a human or humanoid rights in a robot universe. So that's going to be really fun. And it's launching in November, and it's only 5 volumes. So as far as a lot of manga is concerned, that's pretty short.
Yeah, easy read, easy binge.
Yeah, it
Sounds
started.
very weird, but very fun.
I didn't learn until after we even licensed it that it started as they did a project where artists around the world reimagined Tazuka properties and like just like a short stories. And
Right.
this one artist, Kenny Ruiz from Spain, he had this idea, Team Phoenix, and so Tazuka Productions and Akita Shoten in Japan hired him to like turn that into a full series and publish it in Japan. And now it's a Spanish artist who had a manga published in Japan, which we're now licensing for English. It's actually kind of nice though that he's because a lot of the mangakas don't speak English, but we can directly talk with him and ask some questions about translation and stuff, because I think he wrote it in Spanish and they translated it into Japanese. So we did find one mistake in the Japanese version. He's like, oh, that's not what I intended. I intended this. Okay, cool. So ours will be more accurate to what he intended, at least in that line. But,
No, perfect.
yeah, we've got that coming, and we're trying some new genres that Udon hasn't gotten into before. We're mostly like stuff that appeals to like guys, like action video games and fighting video games and stuff. But we've done a few things like Rosa Versailles that targets a different market, just like a historical, just pre-French Revolution manga about Marie Antoinette. So we did that, and now we're trying some romantic comedies. They're coming
I'm a
out
fan.
next year. Yeah, so we've got 2 of them. I think we've only announced 2 so far. So we announced them both at San Diego Comic-Con. They're kind of soft announcements, but the info's out there, so I can talk about it. So we're doing one. There are these mangas that have the long titles, you know. So one is called "My Stepmother's Daughter Is My Ex." So it's like about a couple that were dating and they broke up and then their parents got married, so they have to live together and drive each other nuts.
I feel like I've seen that concept before.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty sure there is an anime for it too.
Oh, maybe I've seen the anime before. I don't know.
Yeah, it's based on a light novel too. There's not a print version, but you can get a digital English version of the light novels. So we're doing that one, and we've got another one that has an even longer title that is, I hope I get it exactly right. It's More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers. And it is about a boy and a girl in a class that's supposed to teach you like how to have a successful marriage in the future. So they have like a pretend marriage in the class that they have to get right. And
I have seen that, yeah.
yeah, so the boy and the girl don't actually like each other. They each like somebody else in the class, and if they do perfect on their first semester, in the second semester they get to choose different partners. So they're like trying to, let's pretend to be the best ever married couple, and then we can get together with these other people for the second half.
Right.
Sort of a thing. So at least that's the setup. I haven't read very far into it yet because we're still just working on the first couple volumes. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that series, we're doing something we do, maybe half the time is we're doing 2-in-1s rather than, cause it's a 10-volume series, so it's going to be 5 in English. I know we like to do that. We don't like to have giant long series at Udon very often. It's much easier to keep in print too if you only got to worry about 5 volumes instead of 10.
Definitely. Or like super long ongoing series.
Oh yeah, like what's My Hero Academia is like 30 something now, or
Reading One Piece is like over the 1,000 chapters.
oh yeah, impenetrable. if you want to start now. But at least there's a clear starting point if you did want to start. It's not like maybe if you're like, I want to start reading Spider-Man, what should I read? Like, I don't know, maybe 90s stuff, maybe like the Tim Sale Spider-Man, Tim Sale, Jeff Loeb Spider-Man, that's good. Maybe the original Stan Lee stuff. I don't know, it's really hard to say what to show to people for comics.
Yeah, that's also part of the unfortunate side effect of constantly rebooting stuff and having all these alt universe stuff, and
Yeah, we've
kind of
managed.
muddies what is Spider-Man and what is actually like where you should start.
Yeah, we've managed to have only one Street Fighter comic continuity for 20 years now. Uh, we've had the urge a couple times, like, should we reboot this? No, just keep going. But we've over time when it wasn't the original plan, but now it's like a universe. So Darkstalkers is part of our Street Fighter universe, and Final Fight and Rival Schools. So at the very beginning, we never said that, and then we decided let's do a crossover with Street Fighter and Darkstalkers, just say that we're always part of the same universe. They just never ran into each other. Like, okay, so we've got our own little comic shared universe now between different Capcom games. So that's
Makes
fun.
sense.
We also did the adaptation. Not really an adaptation. It's a prequel to the new Street Fighter 6 game that Capcom wrote for us, and they said like it's an official prequel to the game, but we decided since there's nothing that contradicts our comics, so even though our comic continuity is different than the games, this is like a magic intersection point where the story is exactly the same, so it's part of the game and it's part of the comic. So that's a cool addition to our universe, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool that you're stretching out to other genres, especially in the manga field. I think shojo, for the most part, has been sometimes an untapped genre. I know, like in Germany, it's basically just all shojo, just because of maybe I think the censorship laws there, and for whatever reason, they just did not get a good start, like pushing shonen in the country, or maybe like I said, maybe just the censorship of like trying not to show blood and stuff like that is what kind of pushed it all out. But yeah, basically everyone, basically the main genre in Germany is just like all girl directed stuff. Basically all like rom-coms. And obviously Webtoon is another example of like most of what's on there is completely overcrowded with rom-coms. So I do think there's a lot of a pretty big female audience out there that maybe is untapped sometimes.
Yeah, our shoujo stuff, like I said, we did Rose of Versailles. We have more Rose of Versailles coming next year as well. The mangaka, let me get her name. I forget this one. Ryoko Aikida. She did Rose of Versailles in the 70s, and then she did more Rose of Versailles stories like 10 years ago. So we're doing the more stories. They're going to be called Rose of Versailles episodes, and they're like, I think they're actually what if stories. They're kind of side stories, like what if this happened or something like that.
Okay.
So we're doing that. Yeah, most of the shoujo stuff we're doing is very, very retro. We've also got a book coming up next year called something. I don't know if we have an official title for it in English yet, but it's along the lines of My Life as a Shoujo Assistant. So it's also like a very retro, like 70s style thing. I think it is from the 70s, maybe early 80s. But you've seen the shoujo mangas with like the white covers and the little square with art in it and like the red borders. Like, yeah, it's one of those, that old of a book. So it's like I don't think it's true, but true-ish story of what it's like to be a shoujo manga, like not the main person. So
that is like another genre that manga tends to tap into, is like also talking about the lifestyle of being a mangaka and like actually doing the work.
Yeah, Bakuman is great. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I learned so much about the manga industry, just from like how just reading that, like just how they're. I know, so like some of the characters in that series, their goal is not necessarily to make a good comic. They're like, how do we make a comic that's going to sort of trick people into buying it, or like skew the reader surveys in our favor, or that they're not really like, let's make a great story. You're like, no, this is what let's figure out the secret formula of manga.
Try to figure out the algorithm for what will sell the most comics.
But it is very interesting how, like in North America, if you put out a comic, say at Marvel, and the success criteria is like, did it sell or not? But for manga, when you're part of these like phone book, Shonen Jump type things, like how do you know what people like? So they have the reader surveys, right? So it's a whole different criteria for success. Like figuring
Oh
out.
yeah, definitely. But I mean, Japan's doing well. Obviously, manga is taking over.
Yeah, and I mean
So good on
here,
them.
I don't know. Were you reading manga back in like sort of the first boom, which was like 2007, like mid 2000s? So
Yeah, it
that
was around that time.
yeah. So there was that, and then it burst, and like Tokyo Pop went under, and a lot of the publishers disappeared. So since then, the people that survived, I think that the reason for the second boom is everybody had to just do better, like pick good stuff rather than anything that had like big eyes and speed lines. Like so the industry has gotten very curated compared to what it was the first time around. So everybody's just
Yeah.
picking stuff like this is actually really good. This is gonna sell. This is what people are gonna like, and it's just built from that. Now we are in danger of that whole thing happening again, where anybody picks up any manga they can get their hands on. But we'll see. Hopefully, it doesn't. Things are strong enough with the major manga publishers that it's not gonna all fall apart again. But
Another thing is for a lot of the early manga publishers, they had an issue with authenticity. They wanted to rewrite some certain things for the audiences to understand it better, since there's a cultural shift, and
yeah,
people would get really frustrated about that, and censorship and stuff like that.
yeah, or
And
even
I remember
just
that was like
flipping
the
stuff.
whole yeah, that was like the whole controversy with the CMX DC Comics manga publishing label, is they ran into a lot of complaints about that and boycotts over that. So that's another thing that people definitely care about a lot more
Yeah,
nowadays.
we try really hard to be true to the not always the words, but to the intentions of the Japanese author. It depends what kind of manga it is, like how accurate we're gonna be. So if it's I don't know, like the big thing is always idioms. Like, okay, do we put in the Japanese idiom and then explain it with a footnote because nobody's gonna understand what this means, or do we drop in a Western idiom? Like there's a Japanese one it's something along the lines of like many people, many colors, many people, something like that, and it means different strokes for different folks. Like everybody's got different interests and likes and stuff, and so but I don't think but people wouldn't get that. They would understand. Oh, interesting. If I put a footnote there, but sometimes you don't want to just break the flow of the reading just for that footnote that's not that important. We had it was a Street Fighter manga where there's a character who makes a reference, and the translator wrote, says, okay, to understand this reference you have to understand that there was this Japanese sitcom in the 90s, and then the lead actor of it had this controversy that so and so happened, and that actor also always did this little expression when he was in interviews and stuff. So you have to understand all of that stuff to understand why the character is making this little expression in the manga. They're like, and he's like, but I think if we just make it that he's just acting goofy, it'll get the same feeling to the reader. It's just too much to explain.
Right.
It's like if someone, like in a Western comic, you might have a reference that's that's a very obvious Robin Williams reference. But if you bring it to over Japan, like they might not get that without a lot of explanation, so that substitute something of their own. But it depends on the manga too. Like if we're doing a book that's set, say, in Tokyo, like in modern day, it's actual real Tokyo, then we might include honorifics and stuff. So it's like it's really is set in Japan. Like we might have people call people senpai or whatever. But if it's like a fantasy medieval manga, like that's not really important. It's just that it doesn't become part of the culture of the book. It's just this the language of Japan. So we'll switch that to something relevant, something more appropriate in English.
Yeah, that's fair. It's also part of why I've noticed like a lot of manga have like full pages at the end of the book dedicated to just like translation notes.
Yeah, we've done that a
Just if
few
you wanted
times.
extra context.
We've got one series called Otherworldly Izakaya Nobu, and it's a it's a manga about a Japanese restaurant that kind of magically the back door opens to Tokyo and the front door, it's a modern day restaurant, the back door opens into Tokyo and the front door opens into medieval Germany. So it's them teaching, showing these medieval German people about Japanese food, and also the German people are teaching them about food, and sometimes there's other people from other countries that come and show them different countries' food. So we have a whole list of terms like Japanese cooking terms, French cooking terms, German cooking terms at the end. So it can get complicated.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a good one though. I enjoyed that one.
I do regret changing the title because at the time, like localizing the title. So that's probably, everybody makes mistakes, but at the time when we licensed it, so the original book is called Isekai Izakaya Nobu. So it's kind of a pun on the isekai genre, and izakaya is a Japanese like pub. And
Right.
at that time when we started, we're like, nobody knows what isekai means. Let's change
Right.
that to otherworldly. Otherworldly, the people get it, and like, oh, now everybody knows what that means, and it would have been such a great pun, but it happens.
You're still probably half right. Normies probably wouldn't really get it, but yeah.
Now it's like, please stop making isekai manga. Depending on who it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good genre. Everyone, they like the idea of, oh, if I go into this fantasy world and then I can do magic and stuff. But the issue just has been that it's been done to death, and that a lot of them are the same. So it just feels like you're picking up the same book every time.
Yeah, it's not like there used to be like Digimon. You think about this, an isekai property, but it's a very original universe. It's not just, oh, I fell in and there's anime fantasy knights and stuff. And
Yeah, I actually really like it when they have some sort of twist onto the isekai thing. Like there's something new about like this person going to the other world rather than them just being super overpowered and surrounded by women.
have you seen the manga? I don't know if there's a print edition. I think there might be a print edition, but it's definitely someone did it digitally called Ride King. So it's a manga about very thinly veiled analog of Vladimir Putin, who is on a quest to ride every creature. And he falls into a magical, he's like, I've ridden every creature, I've ridden bears, and I've ridden sharks, and I've ridden everything on earth, and he falls into a magical fantasy world where he can try to ride, like, I can ride a griffin, I can try to ride so
That does sound super silly,
yeah, so
but
at least it's
totally
different.
something I would do. Yeah, at least it's different, exactly. Yeah, and then you get like the super meta isekais where they're like, let me try to make it as goofy as possible. So then you get the isekais where you're reincarnated into a medieval world, but you're a vending machine. Ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum.
Sure. Or isn't there one where somebody's a slime, I think? Yeah. Like
Yeah, the slime, and then one girl turns into a spider. Somebody's a rock. Somebody's a sword. It's just like, all right. at some point, they're just taking the piss out of you.
let's try everything.
Yeah, try it. Just throw as many things as you can at the wall and see what sticks.
I consider the Try Anything publisher in North America, I always consider to be Archie, because they're like, Archie, ever since Archie meets the Punisher, they've been willing to try anything. Archie meets Kiss, Archie meets Predator, Archie meets the Ramones, and I don't know why that's a thing because I barely know who the Ramones are even.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so they're willing to try anything. they have their Archie horror series and their Archie murder mystery series and all kinds of stuff. So a lot of it has hit. So good for them, I guess.
Yeah, crossovers were a really hot thing. Less hot now. Now it's like multiverses are the new thing that everyone wants to do.
Yeah, it sucks because like that's always been there, different versions of things, but it wasn't like part of the same universe. Like Dark Knight Returns was not another universe in the DC multiverse. It's like this is a separate, no connection thing, or like Gotham by Gaslight, where like it's a Batman, a couple hundred years ago, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
all of it was like a totally separate thing. But now you can go to all these things and like now they're not that special. And
Yeah, it's just like a way to please everyone by saying everything is canon. Everything. It's just a different universe.
yeah, I mean, like movie wise, they did the Spider-Man. Which one was it? No Way Home was the third one. The third one, anyway. The recent one they did. Like, okay, that's great. You did that, and now you're done. You don't not, but not. They seem to be like everything should be multiverse now. I mean, I guess it's a way to eventually they maybe want to get some cheaper actors in to be Iron Man again or something like that, or a new Wolverine or whatever eventually. But
Bring in the member berries.
yeah, but I guess we'll see how it goes in cinematically at least. But in comics, yeah, it's just out of control. I mean, look at all the like half the main Spider-Man characters are from other universes. Like
Yo, yeah.
like in the comics, like not just for a visit, like Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man 2099 are all just regular Marvel Universe characters now, even though they're all from other universes. It's a little different than say Cable. Cable's a character who's from the future, but he wasn't like from another line of comics that was totally separate. He's like a character created to be part of this universe and just be a time traveler. But yeah, it's getting a bit much to have everybody hanging around and just having a ton of Spider-Mans and a ton of whatever.
And there's a whole push for Marvel and DC to start making new characters again, but then like DC has actually tried a good bit of new characters, at least I've noticed, and they haven't been receiving the best of praise. So then they just fall back on doing another alt version of a character that's already established. And then,
I think they try to push it too fast, like either giving them a number one or having them like take over as the lead character of a popular series, just because that's never how it worked. Like they didn't just come out with Deadpool #1 and he's popular. Like Deadpool took a long time to become popular. He's just a character that Rob Liefeld made up for one issue, and then he thought, oh, this is cool, I'll bring him back in another story, and slowly he appeared in some other comics, and then he got a mini series, and then he got his own ongoing series. So it's not, now they're just like, character X, like they're going to be big. So here's our whole plan for how they're going to roll out and how their series is going to start. Like, no, just have them show up for an adventure. And if people like them, they'll ask for them.
Yes. That's the key thing. You want people to ask for the character.
Yeah.
You want some interest in there first before you commit to it.
Plus there's usually, like back in the day, it was they'd have a new like villain every issue or something, or a new guest hero or something every issue. So you'd eventually hit on one that was popular, rather than it's not like every single one of them was popular. There's all kinds of obscure X-Men villains and Batman villains and things that nobody remembers anymore. But so yeah, I don't. That's yeah. I think they just got to not be so not try to get ahead of themselves so much.
Yeah.
Just try to make good characters or good stories with good characters, and people will tell you what they like and what they want more of.
Yeah, trust the audience. I guess, is there anything like you want to like promote specifically before we wrap everything up?
Sure, just some of our stuff that's coming out for the fall. Like comic-wise, we've got our 20th anniversary one-shot, 20th anniversary of the Street Fighter comics. Udon's been going a little longer than that, but we have a one-shot called Street Fighter Omega, which we're bringing back a lot of classic creators for. And while it's in a comic format, it's not exactly a comic book. It's not a sequential story. It is, you open it up and you'll find 24 covers of a fake series called Street Fighter Omega, and like different artists on each cover, and we're kind of trying to tell a story just through covers.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a 24 issue series. That's the events of this series are going to be part of our continuity right now, even though we didn't actually make them. So part of it is we're trying to catch up to Street Fighter 6, because there's a jump from where our comics ended to the Street Fighter 6 comics and the Street Fighter 6 game. Kind of had to, because some of the characters are clearly older. Like it's always been a problem for us, like, is Ken's son, is that he's like because he was born in our comics, his like age is a marker for how much time has actually passed. So in the game, he's like, a tween now, so we have to get up to that age. So part of the Street Fighter Omega is going to fill in some of that time and get to some storylines that are part of the game universe that we didn't get to in the comics yet. We just want them to be part of our universe, like the Street Fighter V main story, or say how Cody from Final Fight became the mayor of Metro City, things like that. So those will all be in so all this stuff will be in Street Fighter Omega, and there will be a little bit of text at the back, kind of just like a paragraph like you'd find in a comic book solicitation. It's like, in this issue, da 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 da. So yeah, it's a fun project. We're getting some different a few new Udon guys, and a lot of classic Udon guys, like Arnold Sang came back to do one of the pieces in it. He's one of the founders of Udon, graduated on to become like the character designer on Overwatch, and he's done a few other things since then. So it's cool to have longtime Udon guys come back and work on that. We're also doing more Darkstalkers comics. We've got a one shot for Sienko coming in October. We've got a one shot for Street Fighter for the new character Kimberly coming in December. And yeah, next year we're going to do about as many comics as we did this year. In terms of manga, Team Phoenix is the next new thing coming out. But if you want to go on the shelves right now, we've got Record of Lotus War, Crown of the Covenant, which is a sequel to the classic Lotus War manga by the original writer. So it might have gotten into the 90s, but definitely started in the 80s. The original manga, like a classic sword and sorcery manga, and this is a sequel set 100 years later. Some of the characters are still alive, like Deedlit, the elf is immortal, so she can still be around. But some other characters have found some clever ways to still be around, and some of them are referenced. But you don't have to know the whole history of Lotus Wars to enjoy this. It's mostly about some new characters and their quest to fight a new evil. So that's really fun. And we've always got more Persona manga coming out, and we've worked really hard to keep all of those titles in print. We're getting close to let's see, 8, 7, 8. We've got over 30 volumes of various Persona manga now. So they're all in print at this moment anyway. So if you've missed any, or you really want to check them out, especially with Persona 3 Reload coming out, if you want to see the manga version of that story, you can check it out. But yeah, I mean, there's so many Udon things coming out. I'll always forget stuff. Our next big art book is Elden Ring, 2-volume set. That's going to be in. You can get it right now from the Udon store, or you can get it from Barnes and Noble. If you buy the Barnes and Noble version, you get a special exclusive print, metallic print that's with each book. It's a 2-volume series, so you get a print with each book. So if you order it off their website, you can get that now. But the official full release date is September 5th, or whatever Tuesday is that week. I think it's the 5th.
Okay, coming up then. So
yeah. So that's our big release, and then after that, we've got 2 Atelier art books for Atelier Ryza, the RPG series, coming in December. And those have been getting some good pre-orders. Those fans really come out for specific Japanese RPG series. But yeah, otherwise just check out the Udon Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and we're always talking about what our new stuff coming up is.
Hell yeah. Everyone go check out Udon Entertainment. Matt, thanks for coming on. and talking comics with me.
Yeah, no problem. It was fun.